done so already, may I ask you to take out your cell phones now and please turn them to silent. In fact, I find that the cell phone that goes off in the service is the one that you are 100% sure right now is off. So without talking, just everybody take out your cell phones. Better to do that moment of love for the family.
Prayer book next to you, or you can share with a friend. We'll begin on page 35. Remember, it's a Hebrew book. It goes from right to left, and we're looking at the black page numbers. There's 2 sets of page numbers in the book. Page 35. If you know this, you can sing along. If you're lost, you feel afraid, and you don't know what to say, then listen to our God. Is there a question on your mind? Is the answer hard to find? Then listen to our God. Listen with all your heart and soul, and with all your might. Write them and learn them and teach them well, every morning and night. Close your eyes and listen. Quiet yourself, there's nothing to say. Stop all the chatter gets in the way. Listen, listen to our God. When the wind and the thunder finally disappear, there's still a voice that you will hear if you listen. Listen to our God. You can hear it from the top of the highest hill, from the valley below. It can come from the edge of the universe. It can come from within your soul. So close your eyes and listen. Listen to our God. Listen, listen to our God.
Please be seated. Esai Naya Heharim, Me'ayin Yavo Ezri, Ezri Me'im Adonai Oseh Shamayim Va'aretz. I lift up my eyes to the mountains, from where will come my help? My help comes from the eternal God, maker of heaven and earth. My name is Paul Kipnis. I'm one of the rabbis here at Congregation Or Ami. And with Cantor Doug Kotler, we welcome you here to this memorial service as we remember and celebrate the life of Judith Lois Allen, Yehudit Bat Sheftel Ve'elka. We were a community, a holy Makom Kadosh, holy, caring community. We have been together for joyous times, the bat mitzvah and bar mitzvah of dear ones to Judith. We've been together for weddings, for baby namings, for funerals, and here we are again as we remember. And we can do it because this is part of a long continuum, as we hold each other up, as you, this community, holds each other up during these trying times. So we step back and we reflect. And the child asked, "Tell me of life." And the sage answered, "Life, my child, is a mystery. We do not ask to be born, nor do we even understand the meaning of birth, of creation. We grow and we experience life's pleasures and pains. We love, and slowly, oh so slowly, we come to realize that we have become, that we are. At that moment, we humble ourselves before the mystery of life and quietly, oh so quietly say, though I knew not, I have been granted the most precious gift of all. It's the gift of life." And the child asked, "Tell me of death." And the sage answered, "Death, my child, it too is a mystery. It is the inevitable return of the gift of life, the gift which came free to us. We live as the trustee of that mysterious being, of that unexplainable becoming. Yes, you and I are but the trustees of life. We nurture it, we delight in it, we give it freely to others, and at the appointed time we sadly, yet with pride, return it from whence it came. The beauty, my child, is that what we are, what we have become, remains long after the gift is returned. It remains a precious keepsake held by our loved ones who live on. We are gathered here today, friends and family loved ones, because death has taken our beloved Judith. Our friends grieve in their darkened home world. In their silence there is lamentation. In their tears there is loneliness. And lost in their sorrow, we pray they find the presence of loving friends. We pray that God hear them and be with them. For Judith's love that unite us in life in which death cannot sever. For her companionship we shared along life's path, which continues through the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of her heart and mind that brought us joy and happiness, and now is a precious remembrance. For all these and more, we give our thanks to God. And so as we gather together in this time of grief, we listen to the voice of our sacred scriptures that bring us the ever-new message of God's nearness. It tells of our kinship with the Creator in light as in darkness, in joy as in sorrow, in life as in death. We pray. Give me the vision, O God, to see that embedded in each of your gifts is the core of eternity, undiminished and bright. An eternity that survives the dread hours of affliction. Those I have loved, though now beyond my view, have given form and quality to my being. She has led me into this wide universe that I continue to inhabit, and her presence is more real to me than her absence. That you give to me, O God, and you never take it away. Okay. And the bounties granted once shed their radiance evermore. Eternal God, give me the gift, the precious gift of remembering. Tonight we gather to remember the life, the love, the goodness, the beauty of Judith Lois Allen. Born September 14th, 1940, she died this past Saturday, November 30th, 79 years old. She was wife to John for 22 years since that beautiful day, March 1997. On that day, John, he of the Scottish country life and dance, married in that Scottish dress kilt that she loved in honor of his Scottish parentage. And he wears it tonight as he remembers this beautiful, passionate, outgoing, funny, somewhat controlling, beautiful soul. We remember Judith, mother to Liz and Serena, to Adam, Tracy, and Mark, mother-in-law to Scott and Alan, Nairi, grandma to so many, to Trevor and Cody, to Michonne and Peter, to Kaylee and Matt, to Talara and soon, as they get married, Adam, but we'll pull him in anyways, to Josh and Danya, to Andrew and Anna, to Nigel and Sean, great-grandmother Gigi, to Alma and Asa and Lila and Raina and little 7-week-old Addie, sister to Suzanne and to Joel, sister-in-law to Michael and Deborah, aunt to Joshua, Arya and Carrie, to Jacob and Sydney, and to so many of you here who consider yourself part of Judith's family, and once she embraced you, you were just part of her family. we should be listing all your names because you are part of that glorious family that surrounded, held up, were the audience for sometimes, and the love of all the time of Judith. How does one remember such a stunning personality? We'll hear from those who knew her best. In fact, we'll start with one who knew her even the best. I'd like to call forward friend Mary Pat.
Hello, friends. My name is Mary Pat Farrell. Just over a year ago, I was welcomed into the circle of Judith's life. I came to help her organize her writing and, more importantly, bring the never-ending cookbook across the finish line. And she did it. I'm so proud of her. Like all of us, I found a true friend in Judith. Spirited, witty, kind, and with a huge heart. I'm so grateful for every second that I got to spend with her. Judith was a writer. She had an amazing ability to take the circumstances of her life and the lives around her and spin gold. And I would like to read a piece of her writing now. The importance of writing my own eulogy. Judith Allen, circa 2007. I arrived a few minutes late at the funeral of my son-in-law's father. The service had begun as I slipped into the back pew of one of the many chapels in Forest Lawn Cemetery. From my seat, the immediate family was not visible. The minister spoke of how John found Jesus before he died, and I suddenly felt I was in the wrong chapel. I looked around for a familiar face. The service must be about another John. The John I knew had a Jewish mother, an Irish father, and considered himself an atheist. I looked up and for the first time noticed the cross at the front of the chapel. Yep, I had to be in the wrong place. The minister droned on, and just as I was about to leave, I saw the familiar broad back of my son-in-law, Scott, gripping the shoulders of his Jewish grandmother. I was in the right place. That's when I decided I had to do something. I wasn't going to take the chance of allowing someone who didn't know me well deliver a eulogy based on a few minutes with my family, asking them to sum up my life. I remember the time Mom was talking and eating at the same time and choked on a piece of meat. Dad had to perform the Heimlich maneuver and she spit food out across the dining room table. It was gross. Or my wife never finished a task without starting another one. She regularly let the water in the pool overflow and she could never find anything, always losing her hearing aid, the car keys, and her cell phone. It's amazing she didn't misplace the children when they were younger. I'm not taking that kind of chance. I belong to a synagogue in Los Angeles with a rabbi who lives in New York. We meet on the first Friday of every month. Unless I die between the Thursday before the first Friday of the month and the first Sunday of the month, he'll be back in New York and won't conduct my funeral. A stranger will be in charge. When my mother died, I organized everyone in the family to write something about her to read at the service. My nephew, the computer genius, put together a lovely booklet with the pieces her children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and son-in-law wrote. But I won't be around to organize this event, and it's too important to leave such a vital task in the hands of my daughters. I love them, but they're busy, as they tell me when I try to get together with them for lunch. I imagine them passing the buck. You're the older one, you write it. No, you're the one with a college education, you write it. But you're the better writer, you have a way with words. And so it will go back and forth, and soon the time to bury me will arrive with nary a syllable written. Or worse, various members of my family will hastily throw something together, and the impression they will leave will not be the one I want folks to remember me by. Even if, God forbid, my death is a lingering one, and they have the time and leisure to write something in advance while anticipating my departure, I have no faith I would approve of their messages. Knowing my family, they'll wait to the last minute, the way I normally do. This is different. This may be my only act of planning in advance and finishing a task before it's too late. I intend to write my own eulogy. I will have a captive audience, and I want the last word. I imagine we all do. Now, Judith did actually write a companion piece to that, her eulogy. And just a few short weeks ago, Elizabeth and Serena and Judith sat around that big, beautiful dining room table on Donna Martyr, and they read it out loud together. And it was a very, very special moment. And Judith ultimately decided that she would trust this day to her family. And they have more than risen to the occasion. And we have the wonderful Rabbi Paul and Rabbi Doug, who have known the family and known Judith through so many joys and sorrows too. I like to think that Judith will still have the last word because she truly lives on in this amazing family. So now, let's listen to the words of those who know her best and love her most.
I'd like to call forward her sister Suzanne and her brother Joel, her brother Joel to come up too.
Dear friends and family, I'm Suzanne, and this is my baby brother Joel, and we are Judith's, or as we knew her, Judy's younger siblings. We are a part of the most amazing, supportive, and caring family. Next to our mother's memorial, this is the most difficult thing for me to do. And for that service, Judy wrote what I had to say. She did. She actually wrote her own eulogy. She definitely was the best writer in the family. This even though she did not really learn to read until 3rd grade, when they discovered that she could not see what was written on the blackboard. Remember those? She got glasses, transferred to a private school, and there was no stopping her reading and writing. We shared a room in a 3rd floor walk up on 77th Street in Manhattan. She and I squabbled, like most sisters. She had her interests like acrobatics, and I had mine, which was ice skating, which I still do. But she was always there for me. Like when I got fired 1 week into my job as a summer nanny in the Catskills. She and Dick, her first husband, drove up in their VW Beetle, packed up my stuff, and brought me back to the Bronx. Our closeness grew as we matured, married, and started families. We took an Alaska cruise together after her lung cancer diagnosis and before she went into the UCLA study. And there's actually a picture on the photo montage. I went river rafting, because she had already done it, and she stayed in the lodge in Denali. I came back to the room, cold and wet, only to find the door to the room double locked. So I banged and banged, got one of the workers to phone the room, but she, of course, could not hear me. Finally, she got up and apologized for double locking the door. Our other memorable trip was our grand trip to Israel in celebration of my retirement from teaching. We went from the Golan to Eilat and even an overnight in Petra, Jordan. Each Friday night we were there, we spent with another one of my friends and their families. I think she liked that the best, seeing Israel up close and personal. There were many other trips that we took together and time that we spent visiting one another in our respective homes, which gave us an opportunity to strengthen our bond. She was the best sister anyone could have. She was always there for me, for us, willing to give her opinion, whether she was asked or not. It's hard for me to believe that I'm now the oldest of the immediate family and the Gittleson cousins. She was surrounded by family and friends who cared for her with the same compassion and love that she had shown to us and to all of you. And for that, we are very grateful. Thank you.
I'd like to invite up her daughters, Liz and Serena.
Hi, thanks for coming. Our mother was a warrior, and I think you all know that.
I'm not sure that we can stand up here and tell you things of our mother that you don't already know. She was an open book, and she shared her life with so many, and she was so interested in all of yours.
Growing up, our life was an adventure. We moved around a lot, we met interesting people, and went interesting places. We worked together in a family business, and I always say that we transitioned our family dysfunction from the dinner table to the office seamlessly.
But we matured and grew up and processed through to become a healthy, supportive family that no longer worked together.
About 25 years ago, our mom started writing plays. At first, we were a little horrified, as her plays were based on her life, which means we were often featured as characters. And there was literary license taken, as well as her unique interpretation, humor, and perspective. Seeing yourself represented by a character on stage that your mother wrote was sometimes uncomfortable. But as she grew in her craft, we began to appreciate her talent and be less concerned if it was about us and whether there was any hidden meaning. One of my fondest memories was writing a monologue with her and then performing it. That was so much fun. It's out there in cyberspace.
She was incredibly supportive. She loved being a grandma and a Gigi. And her grandchildren loved her very much. She would have done anything for them. She was so proud of each of you and the adults that you have become.
During my darkest hour, when almost everyone in my life was mad at me, she was there. She didn't judge or criticize, or John. She loved me the best way she knew how, and her and John let me come home. She loved the support of my AA community, and it gave her comfort to know that I have that and that I'll be okay.
I was so impressed by her strength and courage and grace. And she always kept her sense of humor, even to the end. I would go with her almost every other week for her infusions at UCLA, and she often brought the nurses chocolate, and we would play gin rummy, and she would complain that I wouldn't let her win. I told her when I started letting her win, she should be worried. I'm so grateful for that time we had together. We got to laugh and talk and heal old wounds.
We all got even closer during her illness. It brought our whole family together, particularly Serena and I. Serena, Mom, and I started taking an annual birthday trip together, and my sister and I plan on keeping that tradition. Scott and I were able to take 2 trips to Hawaii with John and Mom, and I'm so very glad that we got to spend that time together and share our love of the islands and the warm ocean.
You'll be missed by many, Mom. You brought this unlikely community of people together who stood by your side and supported you as you did them.
And while I can't say that we, your daughters, will miss you the most, I'm pretty sure that we will. After all, you were there since the beginning, and you know everything about us, and you loved us as only a mother can. Rest now, and remember your promise to let us know what's next.
We'll return to our prayer book for a moment. In fact, the very, very last page in the prayer book, page 388. Remember, it's a Hebrew book. It goes from right to left. It's a page of lyrics that's been pasted into the book. 388. In the garden there's a tree planted by someone who only imagined me. What love, what vision. I marvel at the gift. No fruit could be sweeter than this. I'm standing on the shoulders of the ones who came before me. As my people went from land to land, something passed from hand to hand, and it isn't just the words and stories of the ancient laws, golden glories. It's the way we study, the book we study. It's the way we study, the way. I'm standing on the shoulders of the ones who came before me. Today my life is full of choice, because a young man raised his voice, because a young girl took a chance. I am freedom's inheritance. Years ago they crossed the sea, and they made a life that's come to me. I'm standing on the shoulders of the ones who came before me. So in the garden I'll plant a seed, a tree of life for you to read. The fruit will ripen in the sun. The words will sound when I am gone. These are the things I pass along book and the song. I'm standing on the shoulders of the ones who came before me. I'm standing on the shoulders of the ones who came before me.
Representing the grandchildren, I'd like to call up Michonne, Kaylee, Trevor, and Cody.
Our grandma was not a stereotypical grandma. Can be proven. When we were little, she preferred we didn't call her grandma in public. We were told to call her Judith, and whenever someone would mistake her for our mother, she just lit up. All delightful. She wouldn't correct him either. She was an independent woman, kind but firm, accepting, brilliant, and tough. Despite not wanting to be referred to as grandma, she cherished the role. And we knew that in her eyes, we were remarkable and loved.
She could embarrass us at times, for sure. Anyone who has been in the guest bathroom of her home can imagine what it was like to host my bat mitzvah reception at her house. After much debate and pleading on my part, she eventually agreed to take down the erotica during the party full of 13-year-olds. She was also so much fun. She taught us the value of a stiff drink and even provided Andrew with his first cocktail making kit at the ripe age of 19. Her house was always full of laughter, cousin club projects, butter cookies, jumping on beds, drinking coffee before we were 10 years old, and stiff, crinkly towels after hours of swimming because for some reason she always air-dried towels and sheets.
Grandma would insist on one-on-one time with each of us, which, while lovely, was admittedly difficult to accommodate at times. She wanted to hear from each of us separately and get quality, uninterrupted time so she knew what was really going on in our lives and with our families. As we prepared these remarks, it was clear that at the heart of all of our relationships with her was Grandma's ability to make us feel unique and understood and appreciated.
That was true in the small things she did, collecting Hanukkah gelt all year long so that we had something to sort through as a group to determine our personal haul. She laminated a breakfast menu for us when we would have sleepovers so that we would feel like we were at a restaurant. Making sure our favorite food was in the house every time we visited, and sneaking us money for something unimportant, as she would say. She would clip articles or recipes she found and mail them to us no matter where we were living in the country. And just a few weeks ago, she even extended Alma's highlight subscription through 2021 because she knew how much Alma loves the magazine.
It was also true in the big things she did for us. She took each of us on a trip the year we turned 12. And for us, those trips were hugely important and significant in our development, especially as teenagers. She was always providing us with cultural opportunities and wanted to make sure we were exposed to good art and good food. On my trip, we went to New York City, and I saw my first Broadway play. I learned to navigate the subway system. I relished in the joy that is Zabar's. I ate my first Peking duck. She taught me how to touch type, which is something I do every day now. She was the toughest editor I knew, even when I wrote something as a middle schooler. And she sent me issues of Lilith magazine all throughout college to fuel my feminist ideals and ultimately inspire Peter and I to name our daughter Alma Lilith. Perhaps the role she cherished most was that of Gigi. Michonne and I are so glad she got to meet our kids. And while we certainly wish we had more baking sessions with 4 generations of Gittleson women, we feel very fortunate that our babies got to experience her humor and strength.
We'll miss her so much. But we also know that we're lucky to have had the chance to get to know her at all. We will cherish the memories she created, and we will thank her for helping shape us into the people we are today. On behalf of all of our grandchildren, our spouses, our great-grandchildren, we thank you all for being here, and we ask that you help us keep her memory alive. Thank you.
There's a piece in the Talmud, in the compendium of Jewish law, that describes the responsibilities of a parent to a child. It's a short list of 5, some say 6 things. And it's really focused on the religious actions that a parent needs to do to enter the child into the covenant with God and the Jewish people with a bris or a baby named Simchat Bat, to do a ceremony called Pidyon Haben, to teach the child Torah, to help the child find a spouse or partner, to teach a child a craft and to teach them Torah. And then one of the rabbis said there's another thing that you need to do, that a parent needs to do for a child. Fascinating. Says a parent needs to teach their child to swim. Now understand that this was written in a place where there wasn't a lot of water. There were seas and there were rivers, and so there was the recognition that it's dangerous, and you have to teach people 2 things: physically, how to be able to hold yourself up when the waters start to rise, but also there's a notion of being able to make your way through life as the metaphoric waters start to threaten your ability to stay afloat. When I think of Judith, I think of a person who taught her children and her grandchildren and her great-grandchildren and her siblings and her husband and her extended family so many wonderful things, and it began with the idea of swimming. See, Judith loved to swim. It was not 2 months ago that she was with some of the grandkids, and She dove into the water. She needed help getting up on the diving board. But she got up there. She made sure they were ready to take the video. She jumped in the water. And then when they realized that they didn't get the video, she got back up on that diving board again to make sure there was a picture of this 79-year-old woman jumping into the water. She taught not just by saying, this is what you do, but she did it. And then she grabbed each of us, each of you, and brought her along with you. Whether it was writing those plays or monologues together, or acting them out together, or making sure you sat there as she shared them. Whether it was taking you along to experience the love she felt for Judaism, the love she felt for community, the way she took in stray animals, but more, stray people, and they became family and took in. She taught that value of hachnasat orchim, of welcoming guests into your life. Not by telling you what to do, but just by doing it, and then making sure you went along with her. And you had no choice anyways because of the power of her personality. She taught us about love. That sometimes it's fantastic and sometimes it's hard, and you never give up because you get that real love and you can find that real love affair. With John, she found that love affair of her life. You know, they knew each other way back in the 1940s, I think 45, when her parents moved into the neighborhood John was in, and lo and behold, their parents were close. The moms used to play volleyball together in the community house, the settlement house back there, and they played Scrabble. John, of course, was off in the Navy serving our country, and when he came home dressed in his whites, he took her, or she made sure he took her, to a movie. I think it was on 57th Street, maybe a Bergman movie. She was a teenager. He was a Navy man and an adult. He was relieved to finally get her home that night because she was, as you know, a very strong woman, opinionated, knew what she wanted, and he had to just make sure he got her home in one piece before she took advantage of him. Years passed, their lives went in and out, and after some divorces and after some pain in life, John was visiting his kids up in San Francisco, and Mark called Judith's mother and said, you should go down and visit. And, well, lo and behold, he got down there and they connected up. And the rest is the love story, the love affair of amazement. He loved her family. He loved how she gathered people around her. He loved how she quietly encouraged him to meet and greet people. Remember, he was the guy, the sea captain, who went off to sea up to 6 months at a time. So having all these people around was exciting and overwhelming and wonderful and intoxicating, and when you're with a woman like that with such great love, they enjoyed each other. Judith taught us how to be brave. Most of you all know that along the way she lost her hearing. And for many that could shut you down, close you off. But Judith was brave. And she did something that I hope we'll all take a lesson from and continue to do. She figured out how to get on with life right then. She took every class she could, learning how to hear, how to read lips. She learned how to read sign language. She tried cued speech. She would go wherever once she got the cochlear implant, and she would just know what she needed, and she would come up to the cantor and I and give us the microphone and say, speak or sing into this. And she made us feel at once comfortable And also that we just had no choice, this is what we would do. And Judith showed that she wasn't going to be some unhearing person in the back of the room. She was going to be front and center and participating. May we all remember that when things in life get to us and hold us down, find that microphone. Learn to read lips, whatever it is. Find your steps forward, and then make that part of your life. For Judith, it was all about mishpacha, about family, about kesher, connections. She was proud of the family she built up. She was proud of the determination she lived. But mostly, she wanted to live in connection with others, to live out there in the world. And whether she embarrassed with some pictures on the wall, or she embarrassed with some stories that she told, or she embarrassed because of the ways that she pushed boundaries, none of it really mattered, because what she was doing is taking us out of our comfort, out of our cloistered zone, and pulling us out into life. And most all of us in this room have an example of the time that she pushed our boundaries, and we're better for it. Judith Lois Allen has gone to her eternal home, but she lives on in the memories she's brought into our lives, the love she has fostered among all of us, in the gift that remains, that we got to know her and live with her. May her memory be for a blessing. And let us say, Amen. I'd like to invite John to come over. To stand up. The ritual we're about to observe is called Kriya. It means tearing. Back in ancient days, when someone lost a loved one, when someone lost a loved one, they would tear a lapel or a blouse. They owned 2 or 3 outfits. So you wore it around, and the world knew, and you knew, that that emptiness, that brokenness, the tear in the fabric of the universe was real. And if you thought that you were missing something, you just looked down and you saw it there. Well, today we use these ribbons, and they're worn by the children and the siblings and the spouse and the parents. But the idea is the same. That in these times when things feel torn, it is torn, and that we celebrate her life. We can't kid ourselves. Our lives have been ripped. But like that first reading I read, we carry the gift up here and in here. So those who have the ribbons, just the ones who have the ribbons, I'm going to ask you to say a blessing, a couple of blessings after me in Hebrew and in English. Baruch Atah Adonai Dayan Ha'emet. Baruch Atah Adonai Hanotea Bitochenu Chaye Olam. And in English, blessed are you, who implants within us everlasting memory.
crying silent tears, because you cannot talk to me. You can remember I am here though I am gone. Dust to dust, life goes on. Think of me, I will become a rose in December. If you remember, I'll be a rose. If you remember, I'll be a rose that blooms in December. In your heart and in your sight, I am eternal light. Hold the torch against the night, and you will remember. In the flame are many sparks, touching lives beyond the dark. By my deeds I've left my mark. A rose in December. If you remember, I'll be a rose. If you remember, I'll be a rose that blooms in December. So say the words that must be said. Pray for beloved dead. And as our precious tears are shed, we shall remember. Death and loss are what we pay for finding love along the way. A gift forever, sweet bouquet. A rose in December. If you remember, I'll be a rose. If you remember, I'll be a rose. If you remember, I'll be a rose that blooms in December.
And the child asked, "Tell me of morning." And the sage responded, like life, like death, mourning is a mystery. We have no control over its path. It is the inevitable coming to terms with the gift of life that's been returned, and the fact that we live on nonetheless. To mourn is to ride the waves on the sea of change. To know that as you stand on that board in the middle of the ocean, waves will come. You don't know when, you don't know how big they are, or how small, or how frequent. So you stand on that board and look forward. And when the wave hits, you ride the wave. And sometimes we fall, and then we get back up and continue forward. To know a mourner is to know that the journey takes more than a year, at least through the first birthday and holiday and new baby, and through each celebration and anniversary. The beauty of being a mourner becomes clear when the community walks the path with you for the better part of that year. So what can we do, friends and family of Judith? Mark some dates on your calendar. A week from now, and 3 weeks, and a month, and 2 months, and 5 months, and 8 months, 9, a year. Put Judith's name on it. And when that date comes up, pick up the phone or send an email or a text, Facebook message, to whomever you're close to in the family. You might say, I was thinking about Judith and I was thinking about you, wanted to share with you a story, something I remember about her. Or as good, I was thinking about Judith, I was thinking about you. Will you tell me a story? Remind me about this wonderful, crazy, passionate, intense woman. So together we can remember. Some of us will get pulled by work and school and responsibilities and kids and other pressures back into life, and we'll forget. And that's normal. So here's the beauty. As your rabbi for the moment, I give you rabbinic dispensation. I forgive you. When you realize you've done it and you want to get back, you pick up the phone, you do 1 sentence, maybe 2 of apology, and then you just move forward. We all forget. We all get pulled away. But if you connect back in, that's doing the holy work. Judith somewhere probably would have, had she thought about it, would have written a whole list of things you should do to make sure you take care of her family. So you probably can imagine what she'd be saying. Do what she did to you. They're the strays now for a little bit. Take them in, take care of them, and lift them up. Our service moves to conclusion now as we say Kaddish, a prayer that doesn't speak about death but talks about life. Praise is the source of life, the blessing of being able to spend this journey in life with Judith. If you'll open your prayer books to page 294. And if you're able, we ask you to please rise. $294. And we say tonight, for Yehudit Bat Sheftel Ve'elka, for Judith, Lois, Allen, together. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, ba'alma divarach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zman kariv imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach leolam u'lolmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yit'alal shmei d'kudesha brichu. Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi Shloma Rabba Min Shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Imru Amen. Oseh Shalom b'mrumav. Uya'aseh Shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Imru Amen.
Oseh Shalom b'mrumav. Uya'aseh Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'imru Amen. Ya'aseh Shalom. Ya'aseh Shalom. Shalom aleinu al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh Shalom. Ya'aseh Shalom. Shalom aleinu al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh Shalom. Ya'aseh Shalom. Shalom aleinu al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh Shalom. Ya'aseh Shalom. Shalom aleinu al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh Shalom. Ya'aseh Shalom. Shalom aleinu al kol Yisrael.
I'm going to ask everybody to remain here, but I'd like the immediate family, the front row, to make your way out into the foyer somewhere. And just some announcements and instructions for all the guests. The process of mourning is intense, and yet our love for this family is limitless, and our desire to care for them is intense. So first of all, remember that there are no words we have that can make this right. All we want is time, more time with her. So you don't have to have the right words. In fact, don't worry about saying the words, because it can't make it better. The second thing is, it's been a long day and a long week. So even though we want to share the abiding love we have again and again with words and words, it's overwhelming. And they're not at home where they can go off on their own. So you'll go up to those you know you want to. You'll share your love, give a hug maybe, a hand squeeze if it's whatever's right. And then, because there's so many of us, we'll move on. The real work is not today. The real work is next week, and next month, and next year. There's food out there. You'll eat. It's good.
Restroom.
There's restrooms right out this door to the left. And if you drop anything on the floor, either 3 seconds, pick it up and eat it, or pick it up and throw it away. Thank you for joining us. Good evening.